Hey there, Bloomers and friends. Rev Kev coming to you from the Bloom office. I am just wrapping up a conversation here with Russ as we were sitting talking before he gave me the sign that it's time to start talking. How we doing? How is life treating us, and how are we feeling in part of it? And we talk about the emotions of having a sense of sometimes grief and anger and sadness and concern, and at the same time knowing that we have to continue to move on in our lives, and also be relating to people who are around us. And so it's it's a generally felt situation that here we are, 5 months in, March, April, May, June, July, 5 months in, and we know more, but we're not better off. And there's efforts to be pushing to make it be better than it really ought to be. And the kinds of alternatives that would need to go in place from a national strategy are just not there in order to make it be that we would reflect some of the successes of some other countries. And so we're living in a situation that is filled with magical thinking from our most important leaders, and other people are trying to do the best they can to compensate for that, but it is like trying to be the sensible person in the midst of a dysfunctional house, a dysfunctional home. You're trying to be the sensible one, and the one that's trying to hold it together, and that can be pretty frightening for each one of us as individuals, because that's going on an individual basis. Individual citizens, individual church members, individual family members are trying to hold it together for the little group that they're a part of, and then trying to hold it together for themselves. So there are ways that we can help one another. What is the commandment? This is the commandment that I give to you, that you are to love one another. This is how people will know that you are my disciples, that you love one another. This is the purpose of our faith, of our Christian faith, is to be the actionable people on loving one another. That's the case. That means we are supposed to do what we can. And we do that. Bloom, is doing that in our missions, doing that in providing spiritual support through our worship service on Sunday, and we're trying all sorts of ways to make that as credible isn't the right word, quality, meaningful, memorable kind of experience that we can share together. And I think we're for people with the resources that we have and the skills and the talents, we're learning as we're going, but we're doing pretty well from the very beginning, and I'm really grateful for the leadership that we have in music, and the leadership in the people that are volunteering to make sure our worship happens, and here administratively in the office and all of that. That's all good. And I know that people are showing up and serving lunches, and I know that we are doing various things. But the thing that I want to get to is that as individuals, we can have moments when we just need individual support. It is important for us to know that having sense of fear and concern is absolutely normal in a time like this. So, as sometimes happens, I don't put the call out for these sorts of things, but I do appreciate every now and then when somebody leaves something on my desk. And this article from the New York Times from July 6th, I'm not going to read this article to you, but it was very helpful. And the thing about it is, what really struck me when I was reading it is that this is just like when people are experiencing grief. That these what the headline is people fearful about coronavirus don't need cheering up. It's like grief. When people are in grief, they don't need cheering up. They need support. They need care. They need only what they ask you to give or me to give. They don't need what we have for them. So it is pretty remarkable that one of the things that we always need to be aware of in our own kinds of interactions with people, they call it here dismissive positivity. And that's when you say everything's going to be okay, at least you didn't lose your job, or be grateful, you can use this time to explore a new hobby, or well, look, you just rebuilt your kitchen, or something like that. It's a dismissive positivity that doesn't really take into account the fact that somebody is really feeling something real. Think happy thoughts. At least you have a significant other to stay in place with. And this won't last forever, and you're resourceful, and you'll come out on top. Well, the truth is, this won't last forever. It won't stay exactly like this forever. But at the same time, you can't dismiss someone's feelings by saying that, because that's got to be something people feel themselves. The important thing for us to do is to resist trying to reframe somebody else, and actually resist trying to reframe ourselves to fit in some particular way we think we should be feeling, or we think they should be acting. And that's the operative word there. It's nix the word should in our lives right now. There's nothing we should be doing. There are things we can do, but there's nothing we should be doing. You probably heard me every once in a while say to people, don't should on yourself. And that's something I learned later in life. It's not something I've known my whole life. But it is important for us to realize that what we want to do is be encouraging. So the kinds of things we say are, I can't imagine how it must feel for you, and I am here to listen. That's for somebody in grief. That's for somebody who lost their job. That's for somebody who's feeling some fear about this situation. It's for somebody who's just learned that their school isn't going to open, or for somebody that's just learned their school is going to open for their kids, and so then there's great concern for safety, even though you want children to be in school which has the best resources for them. Another thing, I hear you, and giving a comforting look. I can hear how scared you are. These phrases are helpful. And the thing to do is also to validate people, to let them know that it's really hard to sustain work at home when there's all sorts of things going on. It's hard to think positive. It's hard to move forward when we feel like we're being held back. It's terrifying to lose a job, and people must feel like they lose their sense of security. It's really hard to be busy and we're not all functioning at full capacity. So it's just, we're trying to figure this out. So the important thing to do is to don't dismiss people's feelings, reframe things in a way that is positive. Try not to reframe things that are negative. Don't minimize, nix the word should. Don't give unsolicited advice. Did I just do that? Oops, I'm giving unsolicited advice. And avoid problem solving for other people, because they can solve their own problems. This is a way in which we are able to help one another. Help each other as we are called to do this, that we love one another as God loved us first. We love one another, and this is how people will know that we are followers of Jesus. We hope to be with you online in this Sunday in worship on Facebook or on YouTube. Feel free to send us any feedback that you have. It is great to know how many people are there on a Sunday morning, and it's wonderful to review the prayer concerns and so forth. That I do review them after our worship time and hold them in prayer. This is a good time for us. In that sense, we continue to be doing our ministries together. So if you can't be with us online, we hope you'll be with us in spirit. And as always, please keep us in your prayers.